Okay, fabulous. I'll call this regular meeting of the School District of Belleville Board of Education to order at 6:30 PM. Can I get a roll call, please, Marion?
Present.
Here.
Steve Elliott,
Present.
Ryan Kubley,
Here.
Marion Binney, here. Katie Worley.
Here.
Beth yours.
Here.
7 present.
All right.
One
Seven
virtual.
present. Thank you. And I've got to reopen my board doc. It went away on me. I'll entertain a motion for tonight's agenda approval.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Marion, seconded by Meg. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of agenda approval say yes.
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 All
Yes.
opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. All right. Still getting myself moved around here. There we go. All right. We have no visitor comments tonight. So the first thing up is district highlights.
All right, thank you. So tonight, John Sapersky, our Sugar River Raiders girls soccer coach, is not able to join us, but we wanted to highlight him. He'll come back at a future meeting. But the co-op was awarded the platinum level team ethics and sportsmanship award from the United Soccer Coaches. It's one of only 5 programs nationwide to receive that honor for the spring season. It's the 5th time they've received it. No other program in the country has earned more than one in their history. And to qualify, you have to complete an entire season without a single yellow card. So anyone that's ever watched a soccer tournament knows that's not a small feat. And I did share in the public area as well a link to the announcement. We're also anticipating a Pinnacle Award. And the Pinnacle Award for the team is for, and this would be their 5th, would be, it's for a combination of winning percentage, that sportsmanship and academic achievement based on the GPA. So they averaged a GPA, they had a 3.65. And so they received several accolades. So it's just really nice when you have a combination of both athletics and obviously the sportsmanship. So he was very proud when I called him. Yeah, he gave great detail of why this matters more than the wins to him. And you could hear in the passion in his voice, how our athletes carry themselves. Even though they have won 17 conference championships, this sportsmanship means quite a bit to them. So congratulations to their team and that achievement and to the coach. So I'm really proud and excited for them.
Is that something that we could share publicly, like in an article or something like that?
Excellent idea.
Because that is
Yeah.
a very prestigious honor, especially to have been awarded this multiple times and to have that for the girls soccer team. That's incredible.
We will make sure to get that out. Thank you for keep doing that. Keep
Yep.
asking those questions because I'll talk with John Nash about it.
Yeah, I'd love to share that one out. All right. Any correspondence to share this month?
Yeah, we had a staff member who had a passing of a parent, and I did scan that in for the group. But here's the I'm going to pass around the note that of appreciation. Again, the board, anytime we have a staff member lose a close family member, we make a donation in memory of that person. And this particular feedback also was pretty specific in how they used it, so I think it's worth noting as well. So, coming around.
All right. Next up, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Marion, seconded by Steve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion on the table is to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Up next in reports, we've got our district administrator report. So you can take that away, Jim.
Our first item. All right, first up tonight, donations. We received $2,000 donation from Brother Love Music Festival for our backpack club. If you go to their website, they're very specific. You can see that little blue section that's down there with the proceeds for both Belleville and the Oregon School District. And I have to say, like, I appreciated this a year ago. I spent more time digging in the site and actually talking and giving Dave a call. And the intent and the story behind it is, it's quite something. So if you haven't had a chance to go to that site, it's a really touching story about where those funds come from. And so we're very appreciative to Dave's work and everyone who helped contribute to that donation coming to our backpack club. So anyway, we're very appreciative on that one. Katie and I talked a little bit about homecoming. So typically we talk about homecoming, and Kyle is going to come up in a moment just to kind of bring some light to a couple of these items on here. Typically we talk about homecoming at the September board meeting. We want to be just a little bit in front of that in the August meeting as a starter, and then follow up in September just to talk about get homecoming on our radar from a community engagement perspective. So Kyle, I'll let you take it away.
Yep. Can't believe we're already talking about homecoming 2025, but it's almost here already. Yeah, so it's the last week in September. It's actually a no school day for students on Monday, but this year we're excited. Emily Ballbeck has taken over the homecoming duties, and she is an extremely organized individual, which is going to help us very much, as Liz and I were the coordinators last year, and we were barely able to make it work. So we are going to continue with the same activities. It's going to work out where our JV team has a home game on Monday. We will have powder puff game on that Monday. The next day on Tuesday, we have a home volleyball game. So we will have our boys powder buff game, as we're calling it. And then we'll be partnering on Wednesday. Help me, Kelsey, what's on Wednesday night? The community picnic? Thank you, Fall. There's too many things. Oh, sweet. Yeah, last Wednesday, September.
Yep.
They didn't partner with us. So we are starting to figure out what Wednesday is going to be, because we talked about partnering with them, but they don't want to, because the festival will be over. We'll get people to it still. And we are going to organize a little bit tighter this year. The first year was a real big success with our handoff from our kindergartners to our seniors. We are going to be just pushing that a little bit more and having a little bit more of an activity with it, and we're excited for that. The theme will be coming out after the first week. The students have to have a say over it. Our homecoming coordinator is having a meeting before school already, but we got to let all students vote, and it'll be coming out soon. It's going to be here already, so we can't wait. Go Wildcats.
Go.
Any questions for Kyle before you?
Thank you for the very early. I know it was school hasn't started, but we're talking homecoming, so it's a little bit out there. But I do get a little curious if there are ways that we can engage that we're planning to engage the community, like if we're doing spirit windows or anything like that with local businesses or anything like that. I think that's been done in past years, but not recently. So just curious if that's something we're working on.
That event, by the way, the bottom right, we did ask, it's only the second year. It's not going to be a public event yet, because we still have some details to work on. So, and given the nature and a little bit of a corralling effort. So, all right. We'll go from something very exciting to something a little bit more dry. Just the budget drivers and just a timeline. And we're going to be talking about the budget, the preliminary budget, later in the meeting. But just from my perspective, I know we've been paying attention to this a lot. So there's some key benchmarks throughout the year that we're watching. One is about to come up on Friday. These will be our first two estimates. So July 1, we get that estimate from the state on general equalization aid. And then later this week, we'll get that first estimate of the value of our property in the district. While that may seem exciting, there was a significant change to that valuation from August 15th to October 15th, when the final one comes out 2 months later. So again, these are all, we're slowly inching our way towards more definition. We have our annual meeting, I believe, on the 13th of October. That certification then takes place a couple of days later. And then we'll be meeting at the end of October to finalize our budget. So just wanted to get that on, that these first two pieces of data are estimates. And then the second two pieces of data is when we start to get numbers much more firm. So those are 4 very important dates. We've passed one of them and we got 3 more to go. One other piece is, I didn't want to be lost upon us, especially when you start looking at the budget data. Open enrollment's changed. There's an increase in the per pupil money that goes towards an open enrolling student. These numbers are going from the 7,000 to 8,000. Now they're going up into they're increasing by quite a bit. That was a pretty big change with this last year's budget. So it seems as time has gone on, the impact of an open enroll student is becoming more and more. So that's just something I wanted everyone to be aware of. Now, one piece of data that was missing back here was our third Friday count. So that's our membership, which is really is impacted by this, whether it's open enroll or whether it's our students as well. So just a couple of drivers on our budget that I just want to make sure people are aware of. In terms of staffing, we're down to one vacancy. We have one paraprofessional vacancy. Other than that, all of our professional positions are filled. Administrative positions are filled. So we're in a pretty good spot as we start to inch our way toward the start of the year. Shifting to back to school, some of you are family members in the district. And if you are, you've received communication from me, you received a communication from Kyle and or Kelsey, if you have, depending on the level that your students are in. And then a variety of different activities coming up as well. So we have a return of staff. So staff will be, so our new teachers are coming a week from today, or new staff members. And then all staff are coming August 25th, picture day. So if you want to join us, 7:30 we'll do breakfast. And then Katie's going to do a brief welcome, and then I follow her in the auditorium at 8:30. So everyone's welcome to join that on the 25th. A couple other things also. Earlier this summer, we approved at this table the shift to the Office of School Safety protocols, and that's going to be a big part of Tuesday the 26th. We're going to be doing that standard response protocol training for all staff. Followed by a little picture out on the field. So Kyle and John B. Nash are working on what that's going to look like, and I heard the word drone, and I stopped listening. I'm not going to have any help. So anyway, so that's exciting coming up. So we got a couple weeks before our buildings will be filling up more than filling up even more later in that week. We have a couple open houses. So those are the dates and times for our middle high school and the elementary as well. And then also we do student pictures then. So that you don't have to send them off on a bus and hope that they look good. You can monitor it real time. Buildings and grounds, we have a lot of projects going on. The far left side, that is I haven't been out there today, but that was toward the end of last week. The sign donated by the Phase, that foundation's done. We're still told we're on track to have that ready for the start of the school year. The roof is done. I think I saw the last little bits are now gone. The flashing was the part that had to be completed. So the roof is done at the Hegman Gym. The bottom center, we expect any day for the pavilion to be the electrical to be connected into our system, into the line. So that's we're looking forward to that. And then the glass windows or the glass walls between the classrooms in the 5th and 6th at the elementary school now look like drywall, which puts a smile on. Are they finished now? Are they done? Yep. So it's done. So lots of projects. Trying to think if I forgot anything, but things are coming along well, and Steve's crew is shifted some of our resources around, and we have 2.5 students instead of 2, and that extra half we see the benefit from already. So that's wonderful. Last meeting, I gave an update on the village economic development, the informed development work, and they had another meeting at the end of July on the 28th. I was not able to attend, and Marion and Katie were. So I'm going to let them give an update, and then we'll get into the meeting that's going to follow. I'll let you guys take over.
There weren't too many people there. There's 7 of us.
Yeah, it was a pretty small group, maybe a dozen people. So not nearly as many as folks were hoping for. So the intent of that meeting was to be a community feedback forum, but the participation was pretty low. So the idea was to return to the community, get feedback via a survey, which if you haven't filled out the community vision feedback survey, please do that. But to have more community members fill out that survey, get more community feedback and involvement for the next meeting, which is September 11th. Did I miss anything?
I just advanced the slide there. It's gonna be hosted here. So,
Mm-hmm.
anything else you want to add?
Not really. I mean, great if everyone filled out the survey.
So this is really started with their
Right.
economic development, but it's really about a vision for the community, right?
Community.
And I have a lot of enthusiasm for this because we're about to be doing our strategic plan. I think the connections are clear, so it's a good opportunity for hopefully when our community finally comes together late fall to piggyback off of the work that had been done by the builders. So anyway, so look for that here next month. That'll be 3 days after our next meeting. We do have students in the district again. So our fun at 4K, we do have a 8 a.m. and a 10 a.m. session last week and this week. So good to see the little ones getting warmed up for their 4K experience. I did have one parent panic when they missed the August 4th first date. They thought that was the first day of school. They realized it was just the first day of this. So that was a nice little opportunity for them to know that they're going to be okay. Yeah, it was kind of funny. We thought we missed the first day of school. So anyway, it's great to have the kids back here. And finally, we do have several upcoming meetings. So facility planning, and we're gonna Beth is gonna help give an update on that later. But they meet again tomorrow morning, and then we still have a scheduled meeting that was originally scheduled a long time ago, the 25th. We may need it. We'll see. And then you can see the other ones. Communications policy will be the next two meeting in August, and then so those three committees will give an update again next month, and then the other ones will be meeting in October. And that's it.
Any questions or comments for Jim? All right, we will move on to the Director of Food Service End of Year Report. Thanks, Jim.
Hey, good evening. I'm Stacy Detweiler, Service, and we'll be giving you a report for 24-25 last year. We started out the year with caterings, welcoming back our staff. We did the Wildcat Wall of Fame. We also did some rolls and coffees for Jim's group when he would bring and a group to tour the buildings and stuff. Just kind of odds and ends here and there. At the open house, I provided a table with applications, general information, menus. Parents could come up and ask questions, touch base, make payments, ask about their accounts or any food service related questions. Okay. That was our team last year. The high school's on the right, middle school's on the left. We had Chef Amanda come in to assist us for September. She gave us a week of her time to help us in the kitchen. We were short-staffed, so she was able to take lead in cooking until we were able to hire some full-time staff to get us through that week. She also came in during the year to do specials for the middle school, high school, different sandwiches, just touch upon students. She also did some mentoring in there. She met with a couple students during their school hour block and just talked to them about what food service is like, different opportunities and careers that they could kind of navigate and look at, go into that direction. The pancakes with grandparents, waffles with wildcats. Total for both of them, we served approximately 381 students and 372 adults. So it was a crowd, and it was neat to see everybody there. I did some a la carte promotions just to get some variety in our high school, middle school a la cartes. Apple pie. We did hot chocolate cookies. Made some St. Patty's Day kind of mud pudding cup things, and the kids really like those. Popular ones, always the ice cream treats. So they gobbled those up. We were able to get some fresh vegetables from Winterfell. We had one month was our harvest of the month was beets, so she had some beets we were able to buy from her and make into the beet salad and serve with it. We also she had some apples too in the fall that we were able our kids in the kitchen. Chef Amanda was able to do one class with us, and then I took the rest of the class. But we made apple pies with the kids, and they did their own crust, or not their topping. They did their own topping. We taught them knife safety, how to measure ingredients, how to look at the measuring cups and spoons. Make sure a teaspoon, tablespoon. That's a big difference, and you don't want to mess that up depending on the ingredients. So it was fun. We had our welcome back, or our welcome to hot lunch with our 4K families. We had that for 2 days. And there's our adopt a cat. I did sign up to do it again for this year. And we did our treats in the classroom. We did 640 of them. That's all very popular. And this is our meal counts for the entire year. You guys have any questions at all?
What are some of the activities that you have planned for this year?
I will bring in Chef Amanda again, and I'll do a couple events with her, with the high school, middle school. I'll work with Kelsey again with the grandparents, waffles and pancake events again. And then I'll keep working with the principals, and we'll try to keep some fresh and new ideas and see what we can come up with.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Stacy.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
All right, next up we have our CISA 2 report with Marion.
The report was in the board packet, but I'll highlight a few things. Dan is working on meeting with the superintendents, the new superintendents in the districts within CISA 2. Jason and I think Mitchell are both working with Marianne in the Head Start program. Mitchell is developing a new website for Head Start, and then Jason's working with the whole budget with that. And then Dan's also on vacation through today, I think. Nicole reported that there's still some current job openings with CISA 2, but she figured by our meeting next Tuesday night, she'll have those all filled. We did not have a policy committee, policy council meeting for Head Start on Monday, so nothing to report there. And then Wednesday, this Wednesday we have our picnic for CISA 2, so, and that's in Lake Mills, so I'll be going to that. And then some of the other items that we worked on, or action items, were the calendar for CISA 2 staff. And then the AESA annual conference is December 3rd through 5th, and there's 4 of us going to Colorado Springs for that. So it should be a fun trip. I'm going to combine that with my work and tour a ranch, so it should be an exciting trip. So get to stay out there a little bit longer. So, anyway, does anyone have any questions?
How does it feel to be chairperson of CISA 2 now?
This is like, I think, the third.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, but you're still.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's
Good.
great, and
Yeah.
we have all but one cluster represented. So, although one of the new people did not attend the last meeting, and we haven't heard from them, so we're not exactly sure what's going on. But it's great to have a full team again, and we'll be in person at our meeting next week.
Were you just re-elected chairperson recently? Okay, that's why I'm like,
At the June meeting.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any questions or comments about any of those reports from tonight? All right, then next up we have discussion and possible action items. The first item on potential action is the approval of advertising contracts, and I will entertain a motion there.
I'll make a motion to approve advertising agreements with Sugar River Lanes, Hellwig Roofing LLC, Michael Connor State Farm Insurance, Christian Brothers Service, Fine Finishes, Schmitty Homes LLC, and Rhyme and Belleville Chiropractic and Wellness for the 2025-2026 school year.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Alan. We'll open that up for discussion.
Sorry, I forgot to get rid of an "and" there. Yep. So Zach has been working quite hard on this. Actually, in the past, it was Zach and the business manager, Zach, given our transition, took it solo this year. And we went from 2 of these being signed and completed last Friday to 8 today. So he's been really pounding the pavement hard. So we had a lot come in, and he still has a few that are outstanding. And I did share with the board that spreadsheet of the progress that he's still working on. So he still has a few more to come in. And again, the dollars for this go to offset the cost for the Huddle software. And then any other additional dollars would go towards for the athletic department. And let's hope we're getting closer to a pole ball pit finally. But anyway, so just we see a lot of repeat names on here, which is great. A couple new ones, or at least one new one. Anyway, and I know Zach is online if you had questions for him, but he's just really done a great job trying to, not just schools are in their own summer mode, so our businesses, so trying to get them to take care of paperwork this time of year is a little bit of a challenge. So I'm very appreciative of the work Zach's doing to try to politely poke at people for money and contract.
All right. Any questions, comments for Board Zach?
You're comfortable with the amount that's been,
We're on. Zach, are you on there right now?
Yeah, I'm here.
How's
I'm here.
where's the dollar amount at compared to 13,000 is usually our target.
Yep, we're at 11,200. If one more that I'm just waiting on the person to stop by with the paperwork, and then there's a couple more that are still. We're doing better than last year. Let's put it at that. It just depends on. I think there's a couple new people that might be getting involved, and hopefully I get them involved within the next week. So we're sitting pretty good.
So there is a very high motivation this year, every other year, because we host New Glarus. It's on the 29th. Did I get that right?
Yep.
And so we do have that meeting with our facilitator on the 21st. If we may be doing an approval on that as well, just to any of the new contracts that come in, because we want to make sure that so instead of doing a special meeting, so if we do get any others that get that in there, that's a very important target date to our advertisers, because they know that that's going to have a lot of attention to it. So just know that night we might just have to do a very short approval of a contract or two. But yeah, when I looked back last year, we were not quite to that 13,000 at this point. I believe in September we added at least a couple more, so we're doing really well right now. Well, let's say we were behind pace on Friday, we caught up really fast today. He came running in with 2 different batches throughout the day of contracts. So even though Zach is not feeling well today, he was very excited for that.
Thanks for your work on that, Zach. Appreciate it. Working through the pain. Was that August 29th that the New Glarus game is?
Yes. So we have the board meeting on the 21st, so we'll be able to approve any new ones that come in for that.
Any other questions or comments before we take a vote?
I have one more comment.
Yeah.
If you know anybody that has a local business or whatnot, all the community businesses have done great with like the golf outing and other things. But if you know of anybody that is interested or just wants to hear a business pitch from me, I'll just send them my way if you can. But everybody in the community has been so good for donating. I mean, we had 54 sponsors for the golf outing from local businesses too. So thank you to all the businesses, and send them my way if you could.
Thanks. All right, we will take it up for a vote. The motion is to approve advertising agreements with Sugar River Lanes, Hellwig Roofing LLC, Mike O'Connor State Farm Insurance, Kristen Brothers and Service, Fine Finishes, Schmitty Homes LLC, Rhyme, and Belleville Chiropractic and Wellness for the 25 to 26 school year. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on our agenda is the 2025 to 26 extracurricular and advisor approvals, and I'll entertain a motion there.
I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 extracurricular and advisor positions as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Meg, seconded by Marion. We'll open that up for discussion.
So most of these positions are at the middle or high school. There's a very small number at the elementary. I know someone asked about Math 24. That's a math competition group that is led by our staff. We do have I believe, and I should have probably quantified this, our vacancies. I know last year got everyone's attention. There's much less this year. We do have a couple that will be filled administratively. If we're not able, we want to wait for the staff to come back just to double check before we add those. So like prom and the Spirit Club will be able to still fill those if we don't have someone else step in. But we're in pretty good shape, especially given that we've got some time before the year starts. So, but if anyone has specific questions about particular ones, Kyle's able to step forward. I do know that DECA is back this year, right? After a 1-year hiatus, waiting for the new staff member to make that transition. So it's good to see that one back. One of our career and technical student organizations, CTSOs.
Any questions or comments about extracurricular positions? Hearing none, the motion on the floor is to approve the 25 to 26 extracurricular and advisor positions as presented. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is school crossing guard authorization, and I'll entertain a motion there.
I'll make a motion to approve all elementary school paraprofessionals employed during the 2025-2026 school year, and Tony Kramer and Jim Schmidt to be considered by the Village of Belleville for approval as authorized school crossing guard.
Second.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Marion. We'll open that up for discussion.
So this is kind of the thing we learned over the past year, is that without this step and the village then approving these names, technically a driver could ignore us. This gives more authority to the people serving as crossing guards by going through that step, especially when we have to report maybe some behaviors that are more dangerous to our students. So we will then, with the approval of this, if you do vote to approve it, pass these names on to the village, and then they will bring that to their meeting for approval. And that just gives more authority to the folks standing out there. Most people, we don't wear a badge that says that in the past, but it's just a good practice. And we really appreciate the work of Chief Chris Hughes. When we asked him this question, he worked through the statutes in the village ordinance and got us to this spot. So are very appreciative of their partnership, and glad just to have just a little bit more authority for our folks when they're in those, which can be at moments, especially I'm envisioning, some pretty miserable weather conditions. And so it's just nice that they have just that authorization.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Have we ever considered having students help as crossing guards? Is that a thing in Wisconsin?
There are other districts that have done it. Last one I came from, it does take a very coordinated effort. And I don't know if Kelsey, if you want to speak to that, if you've ever had that come up before. But it is something that I've seen take place.
Yeah. I was a crossing guard in elementary school. So
Not a small
that's
lift
why I
though, right? Because it's back to that extracurricular. It takes a
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
adult to really coordinate, organize. And then you have the transportation, making sure students are there, but I'll let
My
you.
mom was the coordinator, so I had zero flack for being late.
I think the last time we had like safety committee or safety club or something like that is when Sally Baxter was here, so well over 10 years ago. I would love to see like bus safety supervisors from some of our students, maybe before crossing guard. Unfortunately, some of our situations are pretty unsafe in the morning out on, especially Main Street. Like maybe Pearl Street could be an option, but yeah, I think until we maybe get things a little more safe out there, I wouldn't want to put students out there unless they were helping students get like from the sidewalk down to the gym or something like that. But I would love, we've been talking about trying to get like bus monitors in place first, where they go through an application process or something like that first.
Yeah.
So I think that would be step one, and then we could probably move on to crossing guards from there.
Yeah, it's just a nice leadership opportunity for the elementary school, where going back to our earlier discussion on extracurriculars, naturally there's more stuff as you get older. So it's a nice opportunity to give some of those older elementary students some leadership growth and experience.
Tamra is running student council this year, so I will bring that up to her.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
I think there are a few other volunteers or staff who work with like running club and stuff like that. Do those folks, would they benefit from being authorized as crossing guards? I don't know that that's quite the same thing, or if there's like what the stipulations are, but are there other positions that might benefit from something like that?
Tamara probably would. I suppose you could amend the motion to add, that's a really great point. I know that this last year there actually was an incident
Yeah.
where
I think
she was
remember.
not warmly received by asking people to wait. So we could, you could offer an amended motion to include her name.
I'll make a motion to amend my earlier motion. Should I read the whole thing? Do you want more
I
discussion?
think you can just, amend a friendly amendment to add Tamara Hauser to.
Okay. I'll make a motion to add Tamara Hauser to be considered by the Village of Belleville for approval as authorized school crossing guard.
Second.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Meg. On the amended motion to add Tamara as
Is
well.
there anyone else that should be added?
Yeah, I don't know.
Doing
Kelsey, can you think of anybody else other than the paras, Tony, me, Tamara?
Excellent. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, the motion on the table is to approve all elementary school paraprofessionals employed during the 2025 to 26 school year, and Tony Kramer and Jim Schmidt and Tamara Hauser to be considered by the Village of Belleville for approval as authorized school crossing guards. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. And the next thing on our agenda is the 2025 to 26 preliminary budget approval, and I'll entertain a motion there.
I make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 preliminary budget as presented.
Motion made by Alan, seconded by Marion, and we'll open that up for discussion.
Well, hello. Okay, so this is our preliminary budget. So before each fund, I have a description of what the fund is, and then a little bit of notes on how we came to those numbers. So what we know right now is the biennial state budget has been approved. They did not put anything into the state pot in terms of aid. They did not put anything extra. However, they kept the $325 per kid in the budget, but that's not coming from state aid. So that's a little bit of a change from the last few years. What they also did was added money to the special education pot, but what we know of the pot is, yes, they added to it, but the pot gets dispersed through all of the districts in Wisconsin. And then whatever they use the first year, they only have the rest of the pot for the second year. So it's not like they add $1.4 billion, and then that gets dispersed. It gets dispersed differently depending on how much you spend on special education. So that will change our Fund 10 transfer to special education, but we're not sure how that will really affect us yet. So as we get down a little bit further to our special education budget, I have a little bit more on that. What we also know is that the federal grants that were frozen have now been unfrozen. So we will get those allocations, but we don't have those allocations yet. So we don't exactly know how much we're getting from federal grants yet. So 75 to 80% of this budget is pretty set because that's salary and benefits, which we already know. The rest of it will kind of is a little bit fluid right now because again, this is just a preliminary budget and we don't know some things yet, like our grant allocations. And going back to what Jim was saying, like our aid certification won't be until October. Our property value evaluation won't be until October. And our September membership isn't until September. So those are the big things that incur our revenue. And then we don't know those yet. So, but the expenses are, like I said, about 75 to 80% pretty set in stone just because those are salaries and benefits. Everything else is fluid. It also depends on some grant allocations, which we tend to a little bit we put a few salary and benefits into those grant allocations. So it's still a little bit fluid. So, so here is Fund 10, which is our general fund and our general budget. So, I guess any questions on Fund 10? And then our unaudited 24-25, we already did the audit, but I do not have, the auditors usually send us some journal entries just to balance some things out. And the unaudited 24-25 is not completely correct. Will be a few minor adjustments, but not like millions of dollars. It's just a few. It's just a little bit. So just so you know that too. So this is Fund 10. I don't really have much of note. We are using our referendum money like we said we would. So that's, I guess, something of note. But otherwise, I don't really have anything crazy. Fund 21 and Fund 27. So Fund 27 is our special education fund, and that has to be zeroed out at the end of every year. So when I said that the state budget put more money into the special education pot, this year our allocation from the state was about a 32% reimbursement rate. We are predicting 37% next year, which is only 5%. So when they were talking about 90%, that is not happening. And even 40% is a little on the high side. So that's what we are predicting. And that could change. That's what a lot of business managers in our area is predicting, about 37%, which will help our Fund 10 transfer, but only by 5%. So, and last year was $1 million, and only 5% of that is what, $50,000. So it's really not going to be terribly changed, I guess. Our debt service, so as of right now, we are looking at the debt management task force, which you guys will talk about next, to see about how we want to change or if we want to prepay in the future. That's something that our debt management task force will be talking about. As of right now, I have not budgeted any prepayment of debt. Our Fund 46, which is our capital projects fund, we are allowed to use it this year, and we are. So we did the roof. The roof project took a big chunk of this out. So at the end of this year, we won't have much of a fund balance. The only way we can add that is if the board approves a transfer from Fund 10. And as of right now, that's not really on the docket. Fund 50 is predicting a little bit of a deficit, but Fund 50, the only thing with Fund 50 is that it cannot go negative. Then you have to do a transfer of Fund 10 funds, and I'm not looking for that to go negative anytime in the future. And then our Fund 80, which is our pool, and it's our community service fund, that is actually looking in decent shape. So we can talk about that a little bit, but um, our revenues and our expenses will outweigh the revenues just a little bit, but we have a decent fund balance in there, so not predicting much. I'm not, if it goes that, if it's a little bit in the deficit, I'm not predicting that it's going to change or going to matter very much. So, any questions?
I have a question. Jim, I had a chance to talk about this earlier, and I think at the very least, it'd be good for a future board meeting to have information. So I had asked about the preliminary budget assumes the full referendum money being levied. And I understand that there's some potential, there's more to understand about what kind of penalties we'd see if we don't use all of that. I think it'd be good at the very least to have a report back to the board to understand what that entails, what we'd be looking at if we don't use all of the referendum money, given the factors that are outstanding.
So that's something we'd have to talk to our our budget consultant firm, which is Baird.
Yeah.
What we know is that the revenue limit worksheet is based on a formula. So this is the pot of money that you get that you can ask the state for revenue, and some of it comes from the state and the rest of it comes for taxpayers, but you essentially have to fill that bucket. Or your revenue limit the next year, that calculation changes, and that may impact your state aid in the future, which means we would lessen our revenue limit over time. So that's one of the penalties, but we'd have to talk to Baird.
And we also, I've shared with a few people, we've been starting to explore having a board committee potentially around finance. Many districts have that to really dig into some of those more strategic decisions. So that and we would have to talk about what that makeup would look like. But the exact thing you're bringing up is, yeah, so like everything kind of has a trade-off or some sort of ramification. And I think being able to get some people around to think through that and work with some financial advice at the same time and then make a decision on a strategic basis, I think is something really worth considering.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Thanks, Jesse. Motion on the table is to approve the 2025 to 26 preliminary budget as presented. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. Next possible action item is the Debt Management Task Force members approval, and I'll entertain a motion there.
I make a motion to approve all applicants to the Debt Management Task Force.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Marion, and we'll open that up for discussion.
First, I'd like to thank the 21 people in our community, which includes students as well, and past task force members for putting their names in. When we had the operational referendum task force, we had 25 people. This is a small, I mean, if you think about what a referendum brings and how something that is I don't know if it's smaller, but it's just a different topic, still brings in very similar number of people. So that's really exciting. This topic, when we worked with the operational referendum task force, was one of the things that came up that was unresolved. And so this task force, and if we look at the charge, isn't to say, please prepay this amount of money. It's really to work on that policy so that we're all working within a policy and a bigger structure. And so the people that did put their names in, those were due on the 31st of July at noon. And then we did also ask them to explain why they wanted to participate, their background and skills relevant, as well as if they had interest in serving as a co-chair or as a co-secretary. And then finally, we went through all the names just to ensure that they met one of the requirements. They're either an elector, they're a student, they're a parent, or they were a past task force member. So all 21 met those requirements. And so as on the table from Beth is to approve all of them.
And these are only the applicants that applied before the deadline.
Correct.
And have their application.
And I think anyone, and we have had a few have come in later does become complicating because you'd have to open that process up, probably meet again to do some approvals. The other option, which is probably a little bit simpler, is these are open meetings. People that didn't sign up in time are welcome to be at every meeting. They're welcome to give public comment. There's a 2-minute per person comment period at the start. They're welcome to give feedback. We will have feedback forums. So people that aren't, they just wouldn't be a voting member.
And that's true for anybody, any of the public
Correct,
that still
not even-
wants to
yeah.
attend, like, can show up and speak and hear and learn and listen and just not vote at the very end.
Correct.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion about approving the applicants? Hearing none, the motion on the table is to approve all applicants to the Debt Management Task Force. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. And I'll entertain a motion for co-chairs and co-secretaries.
I'll make a motion to approve Tony Schmidt, Carrie Steck, and Hazen Edmond to be co-chairs of the Debt Management Task Force.
Second.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Alan, and we can open that up for discussion.
These were all individuals that expressed interest.
Mhm.
I think they also, as I noted earlier, shared both their background and their intent. So,
I know some of, for the students that are participating, are they able to attend those meetings? Is that something we can confirm with them? And
yeah, I
if
think,
they-
we would have to work. I think at least one has at least an athletic.
Mhm.
One of the things to keep in mind, this is 3 meetings, so I think we can hopefully work around that. And I think we've had some flexibility before, so we can reach out to the coach and the student, and if there is a conflict, and see if we can find a way through that.
Hazen Edmond, Hazeon.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion about the co-chairs? Hearing none, the motion on the floor is to approve Tony Schmidt, Carrie Steck, and Hazen Edmond as co-chairs of the Debt Management Task Force. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. And I'll entertain a motion for co-secretaries.
I'll make a motion to approve Faith. Oh gosh, I'm gonna Waffler, thank you, and Crystal Fahrenkrug. I'm not good with last names tonight. To be the secretaries of the Debt Management Task Force.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Marion. Opening that up for discussion. More questions or comments?
Yeah, it's very similar to these are individuals expressed interest, and I believe they both had experience doing this before. So,
Yes, I believe these were our secretaries last time. Yep.
Alright. Questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, the motion on the floor is to approve, oh goodness, Crystal Fahrenkrug and Faith Wafler to be the secretaries of the Debt Management Task Force. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. All right, the next motion I will entertain is to approve, allow administrative staff to work with those co-chairs before and after meetings.
I make a motion to approve the district administrator and his staff to work with the co-chairs to prepare for the debt management task force meetings and to serve as direct non-voting resources to the task force during their meetings.
Second.
Motion made by Alan, seconded by Meg. We'll open that up for discussion.
yeah, this is a procedural step just to ensure, like, to be very clear about administrative roles, and so it allows us to work with and help them prepare. But at the same time, we are not voting members. We are simply helping facilitate process, which may involve everything from maybe presenting some information if needed to going to find the flip charts. So anything along that continuum.
questions, comments, or discussion from the board? Hearing none, the motion on the table is to approve the district administrator and his staff to work with co-chairs to prepare for the debt management task force meetings and to serve as direct non-voting resources to the task force during their meetings. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. And I will entertain one more motion regarding public comment.
I make a motion that the task force have a public comment period with the same parameters as regular school board meetings, with changes to allow 2 minutes per speaker, a total of 15 minutes for public comments, and the comments must be related to the charge of the task force.
Second.
Motion made by Meg, seconded by Alan. We'll open that up for discussion.
Yeah, so the meetings are only 2 hours long. We were very good with the operational referendum task force, keeping those to 2 hours. So this would allow for 1/8 of the time to be allowed for public comment, but still, and then the comment period is just tighter. Last time we had, I remember, one public comment, maybe 2 at most. So it wasn't utilized a lot. And the time period seemed to have worked. We had no concerns voiced on that as well. So this still allows for that opportunity. And again, in addition, we'll have some feedback forms at the end as well.
Seeing that we didn't get a lot of comments and the math is just making my brain hurt, can we do 2 minutes per speaker for a total of 10 minutes? Because if you do 2 minutes and 15 minutes, the math doesn't work.
Yeah, I think sometimes you got transition or someone finishes quickly.
That's fair.
So yeah, if they have like a 1 minute
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah. It just seems weird that
Yeah.
if we ended up with a full one, we'd be like, oh, you only get 1 minute. Sorry. It seems, maybe it's just where my brain is.
Well, and currently right now they're 4 minutes and each, but 30 minutes total.
Yeah. That math
Again,
also doesn't work.
You don't, but again, you don't, and I thought the same thing, being the lover of math that I am. But typically, we've never really come up against that. But again, it allows for the ones that are less than the math. Rarely do we have, in the comment period I've been to, that people have come up against that thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you good leaving it at 15 or would you prefer?
I'm
to
good
change
leaving it at 15.
Okay.
I just want to acknowledge that the math doesn't work and it's making my brain hurt.
Thank you for acknowledging that the math doesn't work. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, the motion on the table is that the task force have a public comment period with the same parameters as regular school board meetings, with changes to allow 2 minutes per speaker, a total of 15 minutes for public comments, and the comments must be related to the charge of the task force. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. That is it for possible action items. Up next, we have some discussion items. We have a facility audit discussion. Talk about.
So I'm going to give a little background, then Beth is going to talk about how the work has gone. Originally, this process, the intent is to develop a baseline of our facility needs as we move into the strategic plan process, which is separate but kind of on a parallel track, and eventually those tracks merge. You can't do any future work long-term without really understanding and having a common shared understanding of where we are in terms of facilities. So that's the intent of that process. And we are learning a lot of lessons along the way, but I think that's where I'm going to hand off to Beth.
Yeah. So last Monday, we interviewed 5 companies, Kramer Brothers, Vogel, Findorf, Mirren, and CG Schmidt. They had originally submitted RFPs earlier this summer. Jim, Steve, and I don't know who the third person was. Jesse, thank you. Did an initial pass at all RFP responses. Those were the 5 that came out on top. And so last Monday we did 30-minute interviews with each of those companies, and then 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. Following that, and the committee who was reviewing this is a mixture of school board staff and administrative staff, and then a couple of other administrative positions in the district. Following that, we had a discussion as a group and came to a couple of conclusions. One, there wasn't a particular group that stood out really great to us, but at the same time, there wasn't one that we're like, nope, everyone's in agreement that we don't want to use this company. Additionally, we're potentially looking at pairing with a construction management company for, it could be the next 5 to 10 years, and could be a multi-million dollar series of projects over that amount of time, potentially. And so we decided as a group, we would rather take a little bit of extra time. We're not in a huge hurry. We'd rather take a little bit of extra time and kind of look through every nook and cranny and make sure we find a construction company that parallels with our vision and our goals for this process and the larger goals of the community. So tomorrow morning, we have the last two firms who put in RFP responses. Nexus and JP Cullen will be coming in, and they'll be doing the same thing. So a 30-minute interview process with us, some Q&A. Following that, all the members of our committee have a rubric that we are following to try as much as we can to objectively measure metrics like cost, aligns with vision and goals of the district and the community, maybe can help with referendum and budgeting and planning prior to construction, along with a few other criteria too. So following those two proposals tomorrow, fingers crossed that we will be able to come to a consensus as a committee and be able to present a finalist to you guys that can be approved at the September 8th meeting. If a finalist cannot be determined and we don't find a clear winner, we're hoping the next option is 2 or 3 bubble up from there. And again, we're not in a huge rush or hurry here, so we would do another probably final set of interviews or some other sort of evaluation with those 2 other companies. All 5 that we interviewed last week were very open and willing and friendly to work with us. I think every single one of them sent you an email, Jim, afterwards as a thank you. So they're very interested in working with us, and each have their own unique traits and characteristics, and some of which match really well with the district and some of which maybe not so much. So we just have to weigh that as a committee and see which one sounds best for our fit. As school board members, I believe everyone has access to the RFP. So even if you're not on the committee, you're welcome to look through those and see what different each of these different contractors kind of highlighted as their strengths. And I'll speak for the committee. I'm welcome to hear anybody's opinions that aren't on the committee, but maybe have ideas or suggestions on why a particular vendor would or wouldn't be good for us. Because again, this is going to be a pretty long relationship potentially with this company. They are likely going to help us eventually select an architect if and when we need that for any sort of remodeling or construction. So they're going to play a pretty big stake in the success of the long-term, at least physical planning of the spaces of our district for some time. So we want to get it right, even if that means we take a little bit extra time.
You keep using the word if, which is, and I agree with it, is this could range from you need to do nothing to you need to fix a few things to you need something added on to you need a building. And I know that, and I made this comment to most of the construction management firms, everyone in town seems to have an opinion. If you just ask people, how are Belleville schools looking? We really want it to be a fact-based decision or moving forward, which could mean, that whole range of things. We know that it's very unlikely once you start doing a process that if you do have to continue, it's hard to switch. And that's why you keep saying has the potential. It's all about potential. The one thing I've learned on this is we've had a lot of different people touch these buildings. We've had Kramer touch them, Vogel touch it, Bendorf, et cetera. So a lot of different buildings. C.G. Schmidt just did the one we talked about, the elementary school, the drywall that I shared. So we've had a lot of people. There's a lot of very personal connections with every one of those organizations with us in some way, shape, or form, which is amazing. They are very tight. I mean, that differentiation from one to another is much more challenging than I ever thought would.
Yeah, and like Jim said, this construction management company will work in parallel with our long-term vision planning that we're planning on doing this fall, because that, while it is going to encompass some of the more contextual or softer sides of the district, it is going to have a component on facility needs, and we want to make sure basically that our community does not go shopping without a budget. We want to make sure that we're being kind of mindful of the things that we're asking for and helping the community prioritize what it is we want to invest in, whether that's buildings, whether that's people, whether that's resources, whether that's programs. All of that could come up in that long range planning. So we want to make sure that we are being realistic with ourselves and the community at large with what's feasible and when. Something may not be feasible next year or even 5 years, but maybe 10 years. And that's what they're going to be here to help us with. So we will keep you guys updated after we do these other 2 interviews tomorrow and hopefully come to some sort of consensus. But again, we're not in a rush for this. We want to make sure that we make the right choice for Belleville, even if that means it takes a couple extra meetings or a little bit of time before we come to that.
Something that we've learned through the process, I was talking with Katie about this, we've learned a little bit about ourselves. And there's this oral history of, hey, this was built here, and sort of this verbal understanding. And as we dig in a little bit deeper, we're finding that, some of that we have to go back and dig a little bit deeper to really get the real story behind that, because some of these projects changed as things went on, the scope changed, maybe the vendor who worked on it changed. So we're just learning a lot through that process as well, and getting better at asking tough questions real time. But right now we're having to do a little bit more follow-up. Our process is getting better. Not perfect yet, but we're getting there.
Beth, I don't want to add any more work. So if this isn't easy and already created, then it's not necessary. But is there a simple, like, sort of pros and cons to each so far, like a simple breakdown that could be shared with the board that's already created and easy to send
We
out?
haven't made one yet.
Okay.
I have one written on paper. I think other people were using that sort of method to, when we interviewed the 5 last week, one thing we talked about as a group, we want some hard metrics, but we also have like a vibe check. Because
Yeah.
again, part of hiring this firm, whatever firm it is a relationship and trust building, and that can be hard to quantify. So we are going to meet as a group after, well, I guess before and after the 2 presentations tomorrow. So I could see us making a pros and cons just to make it a little bit clearer to see. There are definitely some, at least that we interviewed last week, that swing very much more towards the true construction, implementation and management, and others who swing more towards the marketing and communication and planning parts. And there's some that who do both, but everybody kind of had a slightly different flavor last week.
Yeah, I attended the meeting on Monday, and I will just say thank you to everybody who attended and gave feedback and listened, and we'll be doing that again tomorrow. I won't be at the one tomorrow, but it was very interesting to listen, and I didn't vote or anything because I'm not on the committee, but I didn't realize it was going to feel like quite so tight. Like, oh, it's kind of very similar, and how do you distinguish one from the next necessarily? So it is. I think for me, it's just, as an outsider, it seemed tougher than expected. So thanks for taking your time with this and doing a thorough job of it, even though it does take a little bit more effort. Anything else on that one for discussion? All right, next item on our agenda is boardsmanship.
So we decided the next topic was vision for the annual board development tool. There were 4 questions. All board members have completed the survey. You can see the data down below. And there were 4 submitted comments about the data as well. And so we waited. We just did the reminder last month. We waited till everyone was here this month. Ryan is remote, is able to add in when he feels he would like to contribute, if at all. So this is just a chance for the board to look at those 4 questions, see how they scored it, and then we'll be taking notes.
I think this might be the topic that we're most all over the place on, compared to the other ones that we've done over the last few months. This seems a little bit less lined up for everybody, which I thought was interesting. I would be curious. I know this is not something we have to discuss tonight, but I would be curious going back and doing this metric in like March after we're done with our strategic planning as a community in later fall, early winter timeframe. It's good that we're looking at it right now because there's definitely some comments in here of like, I don't know if our community quite understands what our vision is. So it's a good like North Star for us to work towards in the next 3 or 4 months. But I'm curious if our answers would change.
So something
6,
for the
7
board
months
to
from now.
consider.
Sorry, go ahead. So yeah, something for the board to consider, I think, in like March, April next year.
And something else, I did speak with one of the facilitators that's going to be meeting with the board on the 21st. And at that time, it's going to be one of the things is to help design that steering team for the strategic plan process. And the other is if the board would like the mission, vision, and values, which are the cornerstone of an organization, to be revisited, they can build that in their work. I would strongly encourage the board to embrace that, because then you get to really do that with our community through that process. So it's some of this is saying how we communicate the vision. I'm sure, like you're saying, we're thinking about the past. And again, in March you're going to have that new one, but I think we can, through that process, if the board includes that in the scope, can also talk about ways to make sure it's best.
Did anyone else have anything they wanted to share regarding vision as they were filling out the survey or reading through the comments or the feedback?
I can't see who put what comments in here, but whoever this is, kudos to you. Adding clarity to why we make decisions the way we do, especially as teaching staff. We define the curriculum and daily interactions with students can help bridge the gap. I think that why part is going to be really important come November and December, and even beyond that too. I don't know about you guys, but I've had discussions with community members. I'm like, why did you do that? And it's like, well, because of X, Y, Z. And they go, oh. So I think that's another like North Star to look towards when we get into later this fall. They just see sometimes the notes or the bulletin, but they don't always see the why behind the decisions. And that's our responsibility to share that. So whoever put that in, I really like that phrasing.
And I will say, I think the task force is easy for me to say, and planning groups and like things that we do to try to get the community engaged. I think we're finding folks that really want to be heard in these spaces. That like coming to a board meeting and speaking doesn't always feel the most constructive or is difficult to make or whatever. So I think any opportunities that we have that we can invite people in and increase that transparency and really say, I mean, it's so valuable to hear from members of our community about what they want in their district and what means success to them as well. And make sure that we're really hearing that feedback is huge. So I appreciate the ways that we've been bringing folks in and trying to make a more concerted effort to do exactly that. So I'm also excited about the visioning that we'll have coming forward with the strategic planning and debt management task force. And if we do create some sort of like a finance committee as well, these are all ways that people who want to be engaged and drive vision in these very specific areas can do so and ultimately drive our entire district forward. So I'm excited for what's to come. Obviously, there's quite a lot of work to do still, but I think we're moving in a good direction. That's probably all the discussion that we'll have on that one. Do we need to choose our next survey to fill out?
Yeah, I'm just
What's
doing a
next
quick
for us?
cross-reference on.
I thought we were kind of going in order at one point, but then we stopped. I
We
think.
skipped one.
Yeah.
We have board operations to still do culture. No, we did culture. Never
Okay.
mind. Thank you, Ellen.
Sounds like I'm not doing it again.
I should have had this list. Board operations, district operations, community engagement policy. Yeah, those are the four, I think. Board operations, district operations, community engagement, and policy.
In honor of the season, I might recommend budgeting, since we're going to be talking about budgeting. Assuming we do this for September,
Hold on.
and we either
Yeah, didn't we do that?
No, I'm sorry. Did I say budgeting?
no,
You didn't.
did we do
I thought-
No,
budgeting?
we did
already?
budgeting.
I thought we did.
Okay, never
Did
mind.
budgeting in
It
May.
was so nice. We have to do it twice. Never mind.
I do have notes from it too.
I think, did we do?
We did
planning?
actually back then, by the way. We suggested community engagement, but
I mean, that would be another good one to do either this time or the time after, ahead of fall or fall stuff.
What's that? Community
Community
engagement?
engagement.
It's a long one. You ready for it, Alan?
how many questions?
Oh, I don't know. It's more that it's scrollable.
It might actually be a good one to do now if we're going to have
Yeah.
those two, Brad and Steve.
Yep.
In August, it like gets you in the right mindset for it.
I like it. Community engagement. Let's give us some good
Community
homework to
engagement
do.
it is.
We'll definitely break that one into 2 meetings.
We'll see how we're all feeling in September.
All right. Give us our homework.
Get that assignment.
Thank you.
I think we need them at different times now.
Anything else in boardsmanship that you want to discuss while we're here? All right. Hearing nothing, we'll move on to future agenda items. What have we got on the docket, Jim?
All right, so September, we will possibly have a report on the facility planning. It may either be a report and or an approval. We'll see how far that group gets. We're going to also have a report out from the communications committee and the policy committee. We are going to bring back some smaller changes on the employee handbook. We had a lifeguard topic we think we need to clean up. Rather than waiting till late summer, we thought, let's get this done now that we know it instead of waiting. So we just have a couple of cleanup items on employee handbooks. We'll also have the principals will give a brief update on the start of the year. We have a director of student services report, possibly any other advertising contracts, and FFA field trip approval is coming as well. And I just want to make sure, yeah, that's what we're anticipating for the next regular board meeting.
And potentially a few special ones before the next regular one.
Well, that's the next, right? So that's
yeah.
the next.
What's coming up next in future meetings?
Future meetings. So August 21st, the board has a special meeting to meet with the strategic plan facilitators. Then, of course, we do have the September 8th regular board meeting, which has those items that we mentioned earlier. And also the debt management task force meetings that now, those special, they're technically not board meetings, but they will be posted meetings on the 15th, 17th, and 22nd. However, in September, there will be a special board meetings on the 24th and 29th to have the first and second readings. The goal is to have that in place so that when we get to the annual meeting, we're working off that policy.
Love it.
Can you send all of those dates in a single email, please? And thank you.
I may have, did I send meeting?
You sent random meeting holds that Alan and I were at least both very confused on a couple of them.
I'll send a summary.
So just a summary of when and where. Which,
Summary of where you need to be. You bet.
hey, I was confused too. So thank
I was
you.
all excited, getting those out.
You just don't blindly accept every meeting that Jim throws on the calendar. I do. Fun to pick on you.
Yeah, they're
Don't
coming.
we all?
There was a BCP that got in the way this weekend.
All right. Any questions or future agenda about the future agenda items or board meetings? After Jim has promised to tell us what we'll be talking about at those meetings. All right. We have nothing to prepare for any closed session, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Alan. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, motion on the table is for adjournment. All those in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned at 7:51 p.m.